Okay, so get this right. You've got this lake way, way up in the Himalayas.
Oh, wow.
5,029 meters above sea level. It's called Roopkund Lake. But it's got another name, right? It's called Skeleton Lake.
Skeleton Lake.
And you're probably thinking, why? Well, for ages, people have been finding skeletons scattered all around it, hundreds of them. It's kind of chilling, right?
Yeah, it is. And for a long time, everyone just figured they all died in one event.
Yeah.
Like maybe a massive hailstorm sometime around 800 CE. It makes sense when you think about it.
Right.
I mean, the location, the apparent age of the remains, it all kind of fit.
Totally, yeah. I mean, a freak hailstorm in the Himalayas, not hard to imagine, but that's where things get really interesting.
Oh, absolutely. In 2019, a massive research effort came out. It involved like 28 scientists
Wow.
from 16 different institutions all over the globe. They completely rewrote the history of Roopkund Lake using all this cutting-edge tech, ancient DNA analysis, radiocarbon dating. They analyzed the 38 of the skeletons.
Okay, so wait, what did they find? What was so groundbreaking?
Yeah. Well, first surprise, it wasn't just one population. There were actually 3 distinct genetic groups represented in the skeletons.
3, so not just one group of, like, pilgrims caught in a hailstorm.
Nope. The largest group, 23 individuals, they did have ancestry that's typical of present-day South Asians.
Okay.
And the remains date back to around 800 CE. Fits with that initial hailstorm idea.
Okay, so those could have been pilgrims, maybe? What about the other 2 groups, then?
This is where it gets wild. So the second group, 14 individuals, their DNA linked them to, get this, present-day people from mainland Greece and Crete.
Wait, hold on. You're saying there were ancient Greeks in the Himalayas. That's crazy.
I know, right? And it gets even more interesting. Radiocarbon dating showed this Mediterranean group died around 1800 CE.
Oh, wow.
A full 1,000 years after that first group.
Okay, so no hailstorm then.
Hailstorm theory is out the window.
Okay.
And then to add to it all, there was one individual with Southeast Asian ancestry who also died around 1800 CE.
Oh, wow.
So 3 separate groups, 2 distinct periods of death, and a whole lot of questions.
All right, so we've got some South Asians who maybe were pilgrims. Makes sense given the location. But ancient Greeks, what were they doing in the Himalayas?
That's the million-dollar question. It really shows you how much we don't know about the movement of people in the ancient world. We always assumed populations stayed pretty isolated, but Roopkund Lake is like, nope. Makes you rethink a lot of those old ideas about migration, right?
So these were just a few people who got lost. We're talking a significant presence of people with Mediterranean ancestry in the Himalayas.
Exactly. To get a clearer picture of where they came from, the team took a deep dive into their genetic data. They used something called QP wave to compare the DNA of the Mediterranean group to modern populations.
Like a big ancestry test, but on like an epic scale.
Kind of, yeah. And the results were pretty interesting. The Roopkund group's DNA most closely matched people living in Crete today.
Wow, so not just Mediterranean, specifically Crete. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But still, why Roopkund Lake? Traders, explorers.
Could be either. Think about it. The Silk Road and those ancient trade routes, they connected some really far-flung places. Maybe a group of Cretans ended up in the Himalayas through those networks.
That's true, but wouldn't there be some evidence, like trade goods or something?
Well, yeah, but the Himalayas aren't exactly kind to stuff. Anything perishable would be long gone. And if there was any metal, scavengers probably took it ages ago.
Okay, that's fair. But no weapons, right? If they were traders, wouldn't they be armed?
You'd think so. It does make the trader idea a bit less likely. Maybe they didn't expect any trouble.
So maybe not traders. What about explorers then? Were they on some sort of mission mapping the Himalayas or looking for resources?
It's possible, yeah. The Himalayas have always had that, sense of mystery, drawing people in. I can picture a group of Cretans heading out to explore the peaks and valleys.
I like that image. But if they were explorers, wouldn't there be some record? Like maps, journals?
You're right. But again, time and the elements, they're pretty good at erasing things. Maybe they did keep records, but they got lost or destroyed somewhere along the way.
I guess so. Okay, so traders, explorers. I don't know, something's still not quite clicking for me. It's like there's something missing.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of there's more to it than just a simple expedition or trade route.
And what about that one individual with Southeast Asian ancestry? Do they fit into any of this?
Honestly, they're a whole other layer of mystery. It's tempting to try to connect them to the Mediterranean group, but there's just no evidence. Could have been a solo traveler, a pilgrim on a different route, part of a smaller group whose remains are still out there. Who knows?
It's incredible to think that Roopkund Lake has been holding on to all these secrets for so long.
Yeah.
And who knows what else is waiting to be uncovered.
I know, right? Every discovery just leads to more questions, makes you rethink what you thought you knew about the past.
Okay, so we've got some theories, but no solid answers on why these groups were at Roopkund Lake. What about cause of death, though? Can the skeletons tell us anything about how they died?
They can, actually. Forensic anthropologists, they've looked at the skeletons, and some of the skulls show blunt force trauma to the head.
So maybe that hailstorm wasn't so far-fetched after all.
Well, it's possible that some, maybe the South Asian group who died around 800 CE, got caught in a really bad hailstorm. But the Mediterranean group, dying 1,000 years later, plus no weapons or signs of fighting, it suggests something else was going on, too.
Okay, so what else could cause so many deaths in a place like Roopkund Lake?
Don't forget, even today, the Himalayas are a tough place to be. Exposure, hypothermia, altitude sickness, even a landslide or a rockfall could easily be fatal.
Yeah, that's true. But wouldn't there be evidence of something like that?
Time, the shifting landscape, those could erase a lot of obvious signs. We're talking about events from centuries ago. Some clues are probably lost forever.
So, more questions than answers, it seems.
In some ways, yes. But that's what makes this kind of research so exciting. It's all about discovery. Every new piece of information adds to the puzzle, but then it also creates new mysteries to solve.
And with Roopkund Lake, it seems like the mystery is as big as the Himalayas themselves.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling, imagining these people making their way to such a remote, unforgiving place.
It really does say something about how connected humanity has always been, even way back then. We tend to think of the past as static, isolated, but Roopkund Lake is telling a different story. People have always been on the move, exploring, interacting in ways we're only just beginning to grasp.
It's a powerful reminder that we still have so much to learn about our own history. Who knows what other surprises are waiting out there in the hidden corners of our planet? This is why I love these deep dives. I know. It's kind of wild to think if those ancient travelers could see us now, piecing together their stories from little bits of bone and DNA, what would they think?
It really is something. I mean, to be able to reach back through time like that, to connect with these people on a genetic level, tracing their origins, understanding their lives. It's amazing considering even a few decades ago, this wouldn't have been possible.
It's like we have a time machine, but instead of physically traveling, we're traveling through their DNA, uncovering these hidden connections to the past.
Exactly. And Roopkund Lake is a perfect example of how this ancient DNA stuff can completely flip our assumptions about history. We started with this image of a group of pilgrims caught in a hailstorm, and now we're talking multiple groups, different origins, a mystery that spans centuries.
And the story isn't over, is it? This research is still going on. Who knows what else they might find that could explain things even more?
Absolutely. As tech gets better, we can learn more and more from ancient remains. Like now, they can analyze proteins and isotopes from bone and teeth, get insights into diet, health, even migration patterns.
So even though we might never have all the answers, we're getting closer to understanding these individuals, what brought them to Roopkund Lake. Almost like we're building a bridge between then and now, connecting with our ancestors.
I like that, a bridge. It's important to remember these aren't just, data points or lab specimens. These were people. They lived, they breathed, they had hopes and dreams, challenges, just like us. Their stories are part of our story, By understanding their past, we understand ourselves a little better.
That's a great way to put it. Makes me think of that saying, the past is never dead. It's not even past.
Exactly. And the Roopkund skeletons prove that, don't they? The past is alive. It's in our genes. It's out there in the Himalayas, just waiting to be discovered and understood.
Well, on that night, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into Roopkund Lake. We've come a long way from that simple hailstorm idea to a much more complex story about ancient migration, scientific discoveries, and how the past can still capture our imagination.
It's been quite a journey, that's for sure. A good reminder that the world is full of wonder, and there's always something new to learn.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, if you enjoyed this trip through time and across continents, make sure to subscribe to All Sorts Podcast on YouTube. Each episode, it's like a passport to somewhere new, packed with surprising stories, things that make you think, and just celebrating that curiosity we all have that makes us human. So come along with us as we keep exploring the world one deep dive at a time.